Welcome back, fellow travelers. I want to talk to you today about one of the best destination spots you can possibly go to while in New Zealand. Now, New Zealand in itself is such a stunning and beautiful country. It's diverse. It's got diverse climates that range from the tropics to the freezing tundra, beaches, plains. It's got everything you want. Forests, I can keep going on. It's no wonder why Lord of the Rings was filmed there. And a lot of the tourism for New Zealand has to do with Lord of the Ring tours. But this place in particular doesn't need Lord of the Rings to attract anybody. It's quite possibly my favorite destination and travel day I've ever experienced in my life. For those of you that have already been there, you already know what I'm talking about, and it's Milford Sound. This place, it's on the southwest tip of the southern island of New Zealand. It's about 307 kilometers away from Queenstown, which is one of the largest cities on the South Island of New Zealand. Now, this place you will definitely want to visit and plan your trip around this specific tourist attraction. Now, that's to say, it gets a lot of people. It gets about 1 million people a year that travel to it. Now, there are a few ways that you can get there, but the way that I got there was by car. And from Queenstown, it's about a 4-hour drive. It passes through every type of landscape imaginable. But again, it takes about 4 hours to get there. So what happens is that a lot of people do leave Queenstown in the morning, pretty early at the crack of dawn, to make their way to this travel destination. Now, what happens though is that you get a congestion of people at about 12 o'clock that arrive, and it just essentially really packs up the day, makes it so that there's actually congestion getting into Milford Sound, and then you gotta wait around with a bunch of people in the tourist center for either a cruise, which I highly recommend. Again, there's a lot of different cruise providers, and when I say cruise, it's like usually about 1 or 2 hour boat ride that goes all the way out to the Pacific Ocean and then back again. And then there are also people that take either if it's a flight or a helicopter ride that tours around the area. There's also people that actually hike. That's where they start their hike, and that can last a few days. So there are definitely a lot of things for you to do. Even if you don't want to hike or if you don't want to take a boat ride, there are things to do. Now, for myself, we took a boat ride, and then after that, we took a helicopter ride. But first, before we get into those two things, we didn't leave from Queenstown. We actually went to Tiana, which is kind of in between both Milford Sound and Queenstown. So it gives you a good jumping off point, and it allows you to beat the crowds before you actually get inundated with tons and tons of people at the travel center. So what happens is that we booked the hotel in Tiana, and it wasn't anything spectacular because it is a fairly small town, and it's quite cold because it's on the southern tip of the island, or pretty close to the southern tip of the island. So there are a lot of other people who try to use this method of beating the crowds, and I highly suggest you stay in Tiana. Spend a night or two in Queenstown. Really, there's a lot to offer in that city, and then make your way to Tiana, and then eventually that next morning get to Milford Sound. It'll take you about half the time, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how the road conditions are that day. And from there, you enjoy the ride in. It's really, we didn't encounter another car in front of us. We left at the crack of dawn. We left like bright and early. We got there. We got on a cruise. Like, I think it was one of the first cruise ships of the day. We did our cruise, and our cruise was so lightly packed. There was pretty much nobody but us 4 travelers on that cruise. We came back, we're like, you know what, we want to do a helicopter ride. We booked it with the same agency that we went out with. The helicopter ride was spectacular. One of the memories that I hold dear is this helicopter ride. Now, the helicopter ride and the boat ride are about, like, when you combine them, a few $100s, but it's money well spent. These are sights you can't get anywhere else in the world. You've come to the tip of the world, and you want to experience something. This is your experience. The money is well worth it. Honestly, it's almost like you can't put a price tag on the experience. Now, you do have a few options. Like, the helicopter will take you up to a mountaintop, and then you can get off, look around, and the scenery is absolutely stunning. It is phenomenal. Take that scenery in. Don't bother. I do have pictures from it, but really, pictures do not do justice to the landscape of Milford Sound. Like, they do not, like, you hear it a lot from travelers, like, oh, this place looks a lot better in person, or this doesn't do it. Trust me, the scenery will blow you away. It'll blow you away. I'm not one to hype things up because I don't want like a viewer disappointed, but I can't do that with this place. It is absolutely amazing. Now, you do have an option of going further and taking a glacier tour. So it'll bring you up to a mountaintop where there's snow. You look around again, like over the cloud cover. It's supposed to be spectacular. Fortunately, one of the people in our group didn't want to do it and we kind of like all damned him for all eternity, because really it's like we're all the way there and he didn't want to do it. So it was either he was going to stay by himself while we go up, but we wanted to, do everything together, so we didn't do it. I think it's probably we all regretted not doing it. So I would suggest doing both the peak and a glacier tour. And then after, on the way out, as we were getting done, we saw that a lot of people were in the visitor center. It was packed. It was ridiculous. So from like 11 o'clock on, you're gonna have a large congestion of people. So do, as I mentioned, get there early. So that will help you avoid the whole like hustle and bustle of trying to experience nature, but having everybody else there with you kind of dilutes the whole experience. So make sure, again, get there early. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's because I'm really stressing. Get there early, stay in Tiana, and then from Tiana, leave early in the morning and go. One thing I should mention too is bring a lot of nuts and bring something water and all this stuff, because you will be, despite taking a boat ride and a helicopter ride, on the way out there are great mountain trails that you can climb up. They're small mountains. They can be done in like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Highly suggest that you can. There's so many different, I guess, dedicated paths you can call them that just go up, and at some points they can be steep, but there are quite a few mountains that are they spiral up, and or like the trails go up like this, and they do it fairly. It's a fairly meandering type of experience where you're going up and walking, and that's a great experience in itself. If you have the mobility to do it, I highly suggest you do it. It's a great way to spend the second part of the day, is climbing up and just looking over like valleys and fjords. It's crazy how nice it is. Highly suggest it. If you want to go to New Zealand, I highly suggest you visit this. And I know that this is not an original travel suggestion, because it was really probably the best place you want to visit in all of New Zealand. I cannot recommend it enough. If you've been to New Zealand and you've been to Milford Sound, let us know what you thought in the comments below. Or if you have any tips or tricks, let us know. We would love to share it with the rest of the community. In the meantime, you can check out some of my other videos right over here. And if you'd like to subscribe, you can do that right here. It really helps the channel out. Not only that, lets you know when we upload new videos. I'd like to thank you for making me a part of your day. And until next time, safe travels.